Welcome. You've made it to the Minis, Soaps, and Homestead page, and this is episode 4 of Gardening in Rural Nova Scotia. And I'm here to talk to you a bit about growing. So, we've talked about the soil, we've talked about the watering, we've talked about predators, and we've talked about various garden bed setups. But I thought I would talk a bit about what grows best here, as I have a bit of a unique climate, and sort of what I've grown and why we choose what we're growing. Um, so let's start it off with what grows best here in rural Nova Scotia. And I've been around gardens and farming my whole life, and I won't say how old I am. Well, you know what? I'm 47 years old. So my entire life I've been around gardens and gardening here in rural Nova Scotia. And I've had two different scenarios of gardening on my own. One being small scale gardening on Homestead 1. And I talked a bit about that in my garden tour, how I grew things down there and what I grew. And then I have a new experience, and that is growing here in a forested, previously cut forest conditions, which is Homestead 2. So let's talk about what grows best here in rural Nova Scotia. And you can find out what grows best by looking at what's offered in like your local farmers markets. So for us here on the South Shore, we're looking at Indian Garden Farms. We're looking at Bob and the Boys. We're looking at what's offered at our local farmers markets, like Privateers Farmers Market. Bridgewater has their own farmers market. Lunenburg, every community has their own little farmers market. We've had VJ's farm stand here in Liverpool for a lot of years, 30 years. Valerie was offering her wares to us. And so you could go there and look at what's being offered to find out what grows best. So let's go over it. So the offerings that you're going to find are peas, tomatoes, short season tomatoes, beans, greens like Swiss chard, lettuce, kale, beet greens and beets, potatoes, root vegetables, brassicas, garlic, cucumbers, peppers, carrots. Because right here in rural Nova Scotia, we live in a what's called a moderate climate. So we have sometimes a late frost and early frost. So the late frost in May or June even, and sometimes in July, and then early frosts or early freeze ups in the fall. We have started to have a lot of drought conditions, and we've started to have humidity, a lot of humidity. I don't remember this much humidity when I was growing up. So those are some of the things that you're going to find that grow the best here. When you're picking what you want to grow, the way that we pick what we want to grow is pretty simple, and sometimes we experiment with different things, but generally we're picking what we want to grow based on what we eat. So like in our household, we have a vegetable with every big meal, something like carrots, beans, peas, corn, and of course potatoes. So we pick what we want to grow based on what we eat, for the most part, with the exception of a couple of experiments, some fun things. We concentrate on what we can store, what we can store well. And one of the things that I find is that we don't like canned vegetables, so like canning them and keeping them over the winter. So our best way that we store our vegetables has been freezing them. I don't like frozen carrots. None of us do in my household. So our easiest and best way to store our stuff is to freeze it. So the best things that we found that we can freeze, because we're growing to have a winter supply of vegetables. So yeah, so we're growing what we can store over the winter, and we store our vegetables by freezing them. We've tried um, other methods for storage, but I'll get into that in a bit. So our best vegetables for freezing have been beans. And we've grown all the different colors, yellow, green, purple. They all freeze really well. Peas, we are doing peas this year. Usually we grow enough peas just for eating in the moment, but we're going to be freezing peas this year. And potatoes and root vegetables, we just store them regularly, and we've had good luck with storing them. Another crop that's grown around here very often is onions and garlic. So those store very well. And our climate offers really good growing conditions for those. So we grow beans, peas, and potatoes for storage. And then we grow cucumbers and peppers and carrots. We also grow onions and garlic for storage. And we grow zucchini. We also grow squash, and the squash store really well over the winter. So what you're picking to grow depends on what you want to store and how you can store it. So you're going to pick what you grow based on what you want to eat, based on your growing conditions, based on your water availability, and based on what you can store if you want to store it over the winter. So from there, you're going to look at planting seeds in the spring, early spring, and starting seeds yourself, or you're going to look at buying starts from a local nursery, or you're going to look at direct sowing. So beans, peas, corn, lettuce, a lot of that can be direct sown here in Nova Scotia. Carrots, those all can be direct sown. You can direct sow squash and zucchini, but oftentimes it's easier just to buy starts. You're going to get a bigger harvest earlier. Sorry if you can hear that, it's my stomach. So you're going to probably buy starts for those things. Same with brassicas like cabbage, kale, broccoli, cauliflower. Those things grow well around here, and it's generally people around here buy starts for those because of our length of time we have for growing. Like I said, you want to pick what you grow depending on what you can store and how many people are in your household and how much you want to eat. And you're also going to pick what you grow based on how much effort you want to put into looking after it, how much watering you have to do, and how much tending you have to do to get it to grow. In my last video, I talked about the growing climate and how it affects our growing conditions. As you can see here, these are the peas that we planted in the spring. The second flush of peas, so we did succession planting, is up, but they have powdery mildew because we have a lot of humidity now. So considering your growing conditions will determine what you grow and how you grow it and when you grow it. So our succession planting is working really well, but because we are having powdery mildew, what we're going to do next year is not succession plant. So I planted on either side. So the first planting of peas was in the middle of the row, and the second was on either side of that middle row of peas. So next year, what we will do is probably continue with the 5 beds. We will plant 2 for the first planting, and then the next 3 for the succession planting, so that we get better airflow and we should still get the same yield. Our potatoes are going off. They always grow really well in these tubs. Our onions are growing really well. Squash and zucchini are doing better that they are planted in the bed as opposed to us planting them in pots that we used to do. Carrots, we scaled back our carrot planting and our beets because they don't store well for us. So we will be eating those carrots in the moment. I grew cauliflower this year successfully for the first time, and I will add some clips of and pictures of our harvest and talk a bit about that as we go through this video. We're on a coffee break. That's our first picking of peas. We probably could have got a few more, but it's early yet. I like these the best for using. It's a little laundry basket that I got from Dollarama because the dirt, whatever dirt is in there, falls out pretty easy, and bugs and stuff that might get in there, and it fits between the rows really good, I think. What are you doing? We're shelling peas. That's what we're doing. Why
aren't you?
I'm busy.
No, you're not. You're on your phone.
So we are back on Homestead 1, and I want to talk about pivoting. So the climate here in rural Nova Scotia changes so much year to year and day to day. And of course, your living situation is going to change, and the way that things grow is going to change. What your preferences is going to change. So, pivoting is something that I have had to do, and to be honest, we haven't done much of in the past because we've kept things fairly simple and kept them pretty much the same. We've lived on this property since 2000, so 26 years. And basically, things here have been the same. We've grown in raised beds and we've grown in pots, as you can see in my garden tour. And we have grown garlic here for almost all of that 20 years. And this year, I'm not very happy with how my garlic has grown. Um, I'll insert a picture, but my cloves were very small. And when we grow our garlic, we grow it, we've grown it here in this raised bed. Um, and I'm not too happy with the size of the cloves this year. So, what we're going to do is pivot. We are going to create a new bed on Homestead 2. And that's something people might not have the luxury of doing, but you can rotate your growing stations, the places where you grow things. So, yeah, we're going to create a new garlic bed on Homestead 2, and we're going to plant our garlic up there. We shouldn't need to fence it in because deer generally don't eat garlic. It's risky because you never know. There could be a deer who is interested in eating that garlic. But the odds are in our favor. So pivoting is something that you're probably going to end up having to do here in rural Nova Scotia. Um, the other thing that you want to keep in mind if you're growing in pots is changing the placement of your pots. I used to grow zucchini here, and we do grow cucumbers here and tomatoes. And if you continue to grow your cucumbers and zucchini and tomatoes in the same spot every year, you will start to see more pest pressure. And if you can move those to a different location, then you'll see less pest pressure. So we change it up. We change where we're growing things. Um, because it's harder for those little pests. They lay their eggs in the soil around your pot, so it's harder for them to find uh, your your crops. Um, so yes, we're talking about pivoting. We're talking about changing the location, and we're talking about what you want to eat, how much you want to eat, and when you want to eat it. Um, our tomato setup here is doing really well. We're going to have an abundance this year. I don't eat that many tomatoes, but we happen to have been gifted some tomato plants. Dealing with the extra that you have is pretty simple because you can give it to your neighbor, you can sell it, um, you can give it to your friends. Um, you can store it, um, all those things. So extra is usually not a problem. Um, my goodness, these hummingbirds. So yeah, dealing with extra, not usually a big deal. Um, like I say, pivoting is something that you're gonna be doing a lot of. So try to plan for what you're gonna do if you have to pivot. Having a garden journal is something that I just started this year. Um, I am keeping track of the seeds that I tried to grow. Did they germinate? How was the germination? Um, hello, hummingbird. Little hummingbird here. So, yeah, we think about putting in our journal what we're growing, what grew best, how is the germination, how is it growing, how much yield did we get, and um, do we like it? Do we like that certain uh, thing that we've decided to grow? My garden journal, I've started to I've started to add to my garden journal an outline of where I'm growing things, both here on Homestead 1 and on Homestead 2, because you might need to pivot. Um, You want to know where you've planted before and where you're going to move things in the future. So we're going to be moving our garlic. And so I'm going to, of course, make a note of that in my garden journal. Um, the other thing is like when you planted, um, you could even add in what pest pressure you had, what's worked for your pest management, and the situation with our peas. I'm going to make a note of that in my garden journal as well, and what we plan to do next year to combat that. So I think I've covered all of the aspects in this video about what to grow, what grows best here, and how to start it and how to grow it. Um, as I talked about in the previous video, you need to consider watering because watering here is becoming challenging. Now, this year, we have an abundance of water here where I am. As you can see, we've been getting lots of rain, but it is important to remember that generally now, here on the south shore of Nova Scotia, we are dealing with drought conditions very early on. So you want to consider how much water do you have available? What are you willing to sacrifice when water becomes scarce? And how will you deal with an abundance of water, like our pea situation? So I hope this video uh, was helpful. And I've been asking you guys to leave comments and let me know if you have other questions. I'd love to talk more about growing here in rural Nova Scotia, and I'd love to get a conversation going about it. I feel like here we have a unique um, growing situation. We are in a previously forested area. Um, but I'd love to hear other people's questions. I'd love to have a conversation about it. So leave a comment down below and let me know if there's something you want me to talk about that I haven't covered. I think the next video I'm going to do will be about storage of our vegetables, how we store our vegetables for us.